Hi everyone, how we doing? We're back on the channel after taking a couple of days off. It's a shame it couldn't be in slightly better circumstances. A couple of drop points for Celtic tonight, certainly that's the way we'd look at it. We have closed the gap at the top, but it's a case of what might have been on a pretty forgettable night in Paisley against St Mirren. From the highs of Sunday Euan to just a really dull 90 minutes in Paisley.
Yeah, trying to analyse that game was horrible, I'll be honest. It was just so wasteful from Celtic. And it shows the reliance we have on a couple of players who I'm sure we're going to get to. But yeah, just a grim night. Can we have it postponed still? Is there a chance? Is there a window we can
Perhaps
do anything like that? Well,
you're joking, but I mean, I was thinking in the last 5 minutes, God, wouldn't we have saved ourselves a lot of hassle if the game had been called off earlier today? It was just a really poor game, I thought, in general. The pitch was poor. It was obviously a horrible night in Paisley. And Celtic, you know, we'll stand up for Celtic a lot in this channel, but we didn't deserve to win that game, I don't think, in terms of the way we played. Yes, if you look at the chances, we certainly had the far better chances than St Mirren, but I think no one could really grudge them getting a point given the way they stuck in that match. And I just thought, yeah, you've hit the nail right in the head there, and I think it's where we should probably start. Is just the what becomes so blindingly obvious in nights like tonight, just how much we rely on a few players in an attacking sense, and when those players aren't there, the players who come in just are nowhere near the standard needed at Celtic to win league titles. Jota has obviously been missing for quite a while now. It seems a lot longer, and we've probably not really looked convincing in any game, maybe other than Dundee United, since he's left. And when Kyogo's out the team as well, we seem to struggle a little bit as well. We don't want to throw players under the bus, but there's players who came in tonight and just didn't really do enough for me. Were you surprised when you saw that lineup tonight that Ange changed it so much? Joe Hart brought out, I assume, rested. Kyogo rested / just not fully fit yet. I think it probably says how unfit he was on Sunday and still did those heroics. Were you surprised when you saw the team tonight?
A bit, yeah. And I think without trying to launch a new conspiracy theory or anything like that, because there's no excuse for tonight, and let's just get that out of the way. I think the timing was a bit. I would be surprised if it hadn't been a different team if we knew about the winter break, because I think Ange probably would have taken a couple more risks. I think Kyogo would have been at least on the bench for a game like that. Again, not an excuse at all. Celtic had more than enough threat to see St Mirren off, but I wasn't surprised as such. I think it was going to be quite a patchwork starting 11. I think we missed David Turnbull to a massive degree. I think he was on an incredible run of games. I think this might be the first that he has. Yeah, I think it might be the first that he's missed this season. I think he's played every competitive game he could. So sometimes you don't notice players as much until they're gone. I think that was definitely the case with David Turnbull. But yeah, I mean, in terms of starting lineup, I mean, what more was he meant to do, to be honest? I mean, he could have taken a risk in a couple of players, but I mean, imagine we'd be much more angry if someone like Kyogo, got a recurrence of his injury, or trying to think of other examples. If something happened to Joe Hart, like on a night like tonight, then I think
the Joe Hart one is obviously, people will probably mention that, but that's irrelevant because Bain came in and kept a clean sheet. I mean, Joe Hart wouldn't have changed that game tonight. It was the attacking fault. It's easy to kind of point fingers when you don't know the whole situation, but I just wonder why maybe Kyogo wasn't at least on the bench tonight. He certainly looked fit on Sunday. He was still our best player, won the Man of the Match award in a cup final against a decent side. I do remember when he came off, he kind of gave it that wee symbol, talking about his hamstring. So he'd maybe felt something at the end of the game, and that's why he was brought off. So maybe Kyogo he clearly wasn't fully fit for tonight. But I would have had him probably on the bench. I think there was a number of chances in that game today that he would have, lapped up. He would have loved the amount of balls we had fizzing across the goal. There was one in the second half in particular from Ralston that Abada just didn't get in the end of, and I just think Kyogo would probably have found that goal tonight. I thought we actually started the game relatively well. The goalkeeper for St Mirren made a couple of really good saves. One from
He was good, yeah.
a Mikey Johnson shot and one from a near beat-on free kick. But when Celtic don't seem to get that early goal, you just sometimes worry because teams seem to get encouragement if they can keep Celtic from scoring. They just get deeper and deeper, and we don't like playing against teams that are packed in defensive wise. We like teams who come out and play, and St Mirren for that whole second half had 11 men behind the ball basically, and good on them for that. But we just didn't look like breaking them down at all.
No, and I thought Mikey Johnson. I don't want to throw players under the bus, but there were some uninspired performances. I thought Mikey Johnson had a poor game, but again, he's never one. We don't know whether he's completely fit or not. But what annoyed me the most was just we had all these set pieces. I think we had something like 12 corners by the 80th minute, maybe more than that. We had corners late on, we had free kicks. Obviously, I think Bitton, as you mentioned, is forced to save there, but so many good dead ball opportunities and just nothing, no magic coming from them. I'm not expecting 30-yarder like worldies every single time, but the lack of height really showed, which is something I wonder if I'm just going to address in January. But frustrations all over the park. I think we had something like 30 shots on goal, looking at who scored, and like you say, I mean, Kyogo would have only needed one, so that's a bad luck. But we need more quality players. The rebuild isn't done yet by a long chalk, and I think a night like tonight was kind of in the post given the injury problems we've had and the lack of squad depth we've got.
And 100%. I mean, let's not kid ourselves on. This result has been coming over the last 6 weeks or so. The amount of times that we've won games that there's been one goal in them, the amount of games we've won by a single goal over the last couple of months has been, it's been pretty much every game. So a night like tonight has been coming. I don't think anyone, will be massively surprised that we've dropped points tonight, because it could easily have happened a week ago against Ross County. I pinpointed these 3 away games, a couple of months ago when people were looking at the fixtures, and we had a lot of big teams coming to Celtic Park, and the away games people were thinking, they'll be a good bit easier. And I looked at Ross County away, St Mirren away, and the St Johnstone away, which we've got to come, I think, on Sunday. And those games worried me. And, we scored a last-minute winner in one of them. We've dropped points tonight in another. And Sunday, I think, is going to be a really tough one as well. That turns into a massive game now. And St Johnstone, who are really struggling themselves, but have some decent players, as we saw last season, could make that really difficult for us. I just want to touch on, the thing you mentioned there with regards to, not having the depth at the squad yet. It's not really down to Ange tonight. I think he'll get a bit of the flack because that's just what happens. When you drop points, the manager, will get the blame. But I feel it's just down to Celtic's bad planning over the last 18 months and the fact that when we do lose a player or 2 players, key players in an attacking sense, we just don't have the depth to come in and replace them. I think Johnson is just not up to it. I think we can kind of see that now. We've had a number of games now that he's just not been up to the level that's needed at Celtic to go and, do what Jota does, take a game by the scruff of the neck, come up with that bit of brilliance. He just doesn't have it, I don't think. Liel Abada has just been really, really poor now, consistently for a long period of time. It's kind of the elephant in the room with the Celtic support, the thing you don't criticise Abada because he's young and he looked so good at the start of the season and he's had to move from Israel. But he's been awful now. Probably been awful for longer than he was good at the start of the season. And you now wonder if what he did at the start of the season was almost performing above his level. I just think he's been abysmal for a few weeks now. And then you've got a player like Owen Moffat who is just so plainly not at that level needed right now to go and win Celtic games in the league. And that's your front 3. I just always think you're going to be struggling. The difference from Jota, Kyogo and Forrest to that is just immense.
Oh yeah, no, there's worlds between them. I think on your point about Abada, I would say he was pretty good against Ross County, I would argue. But I think he's hit a bad honestly. Fair enough. I thought he led the line relatively well in pretty difficult circumstances. But yeah, the drop off in quality is significant. I think Mikey Johnson's one of these guys where if we had the luxury, it'd be great to loan him out for 6 months and get him playing at a decent level on a regular basis and getting his confidence. He seems like a confidence player. And when he's good, he's trying everything, and he's got that ingenuity, he's got a bit of spark about him. But see, when he's playing like he does tonight, he's just anonymous. And I hate to say that about an academy player, but Moffat is way too early to judge. So, but yeah, it's about Abada's not there by design; he's there by function, and it's as we've already discussed, this kind of result was in the post, given we've we don't have any of our first choice attacking options, and probably won't for a few weeks yet, which is, we've got the winter break, so that's something. It's good governance.
You look at the subs we made tonight, mate, and you've got Josip Juranovic, who I think everyone agrees is a great player and potentially a great player for Celtic, but he's coming on at right wing. He's not a right back. He's coming on for Moffat in the right wing. You've got Liam Shaw coming on. Again, Liam Shaw, I've quite liked the look of him so far, but he's not the guy you want to be bringing on with 10 minutes to go, which in itself probably says a lot. The fact that Ange didn't, really change it, make that second sub until the 81st minute. And then Greg Taylor coming on for Liam Scales. And again, that's just a kind of like for like change. That's not bringing a player on to go and, change things in the match. So that's where I've got a lot of sympathy for Ange. Just doesn't have the options there. And you look at the team that started that game and finished that game tonight, that is miles away from where Celtic need to be. And it's just because we've gone through such a tough period where we haven't planned over the last couple of seasons and we have so many injuries at the moment. It's a combination of those two things. I'm not worried overall about Ange. I think he has the team going in the direction we need to be going. I do have concerns now about this season, though, and I'm just being frank about that. I just think that, across the city, they really don't look like dropping points at the moment. They have the bit between their teeth, and I think, to be honest, Celtic have looked like dropping points in quite a few games lately, and hopefully it's just a case of, win at all costs on Sunday against St Johnstone, get into the winter break, get, Maeda, Hatate, Jota back into the team, etc., and we kick on from there. And to be honest, I think that could happen. But I do have concerns about this league season now, because I just don't know if that squad is where it needs to be to really go and challenge for the title, given how consistent they're looking across the city.
Yeah, but I would say, we were on a similar excellent winter form to them. We've dropped points tonight. They're inevitably going to drop points at some stage. I really think they are. And that's not blind faith so much as just that's kind of what happens over the course of a league season. I still think the momentum from the League Cup win, just looking back at history, we've come back from a lot worse than this. We really have.
100%, yeah.
Especially with the buoyancy that the League Cup final and winning that created, the momentum from that. We didn't feel it immediately, but that's a team of winners now, despite tonight. And I'm still optimistic about the season as a whole. I think there's still it sounds like it is a massive cliche. There's a hell of a lot of football to be played yet, but I think we're going to see some pretty interesting developments over January in terms of ingoings and outgoings, not just us. And no, I'm still optimistic. I don't want to sound like, I predicted this or I told you so or anything, because I didn't, not publicly anyway. I just expected the result of this to come at some stage, because you could argue we've been riding our luck during this massive injury crisis. And yeah, a lot of work needs done, but I still think, there's reason to be positive after this. It's a frustrating one, but it's not a catastrophe.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think, agreeing with your way, and I just want to put out there, not having any doubts about Ange at all, because I think he's a great manager, and everything I said on Sunday is correct. I just, as I say, have concerns now about this league season. I think it makes the Derby game on February the 2nd an absolute must win. If it wasn't already, that match has just turned into an absolute must win, because we could now be going into the winter break, 6 points behind, something like that, depending how things go. Let's just go through some of the comments chatting about where Celtic are at the moment, just to get a feeling of where people are. I need to kind of scroll through the ones that are acceptable to stick on screen. Piping saying not just good enough, let's out things into perspective. It's St Mirren versus Celtic. John Coyle saying we need to unearth a few gems in January to mount a serious challenge. It sounds like we're going to get the 3 players in from Japan, and that'll probably be it. That's been the chat. Jota possibly as well, but he's a player already at the club. I'm getting called out as well. I think you're miles off, Hamish. Rangers not what they were. Mark my words, they will drop points, and not just from us. I hope you're right. I really do. Chill out. It'll be a 3-point gap in a couple of weeks, and Ange we trust. A lot of people I think still kind of relatively calm. It's just 2 points. Yeah. My whole point is that it's just I think the margin for error we have this season is so tight because of the way we started the season, and nights like tonight are just going to make it difficult. But I take your point on board, Euan. It's the first points we've dropped since Livingston at home.
Right enough, yeah. So that was September, wasn't it? Might have been. That's pretty considerable going. And I'm not saying that it doesn't take how bad tonight was. It doesn't take that off the table. But it's possible to be frustrated and still optimistic at once. It was a pretty dreadful situation. I mean, obviously that sounds kind of trite, and considering what St Mirren were up against, and yes, we should have won, and yes, there are no excuses. But again, if I've said it once, I'll say it for the 3rd or 4th time and become a broken record. This was in the post, and it's all about how Celtic react to this, because they've not had to react to a disappointing result in quite a while. So it's about building the squad, it's about getting players back from injury, and it's about sustaining the title challenge from here. And tonight's a blow, but it's a speed bump, not a stop sign.
Nicely put. And to be fair to Ange and Celtic, they have responded to disappointing results really well so far this season. So let's hope that happens on Sunday against St Johnstone. Maybe I'm just getting old. Maybe I'm just in a mood because I'm housebound for the next 10 days. I don't know.
Oh, no.
Something like that. But we'll move on. Speaking about that St Johnstone game, that's what's coming up on the 26th of December, also known as Boxing Day, or I believe St Stephen's Day if you're based in the Republic of Ireland. But correct me on that. That's the fixtures on screen there now. That's updated fixtures after the update today. The winter break there is that big line you see after the St Johnstone game. In case you've been out all day and missed it, we will head into our winter break early after Boxing Day's game in Perth. And those are the fixtures that will kick off Celtic's 2022. So the rearranged game from December the 29th against Hibs will take place on a Monday night. Yes, Celtic v Hibs on a Monday night in January for the 2nd season in a row. Monday the 17th of January, that is. We then have that Scottish Cup tie away to Alloa and the trip to Hearts as well. Dundee United at home follows that. And then the derby against Rangers has been moved from the 2nd of January to the 2nd of February. A night game, Wednesday night, that will be live on Sky Sports. Euan, that's just Celtic's fixtures there. What are your thoughts on this whole thing that's kind of gone on over the last 24 hours?
In regards to winter break, it's been farcically handled. I think it's been absolutely horrendously handled by the SPFL and the SFA. We knew about how the scale of this problem. I think that was hammered home when St Mirren had to announce that they were shutting their training down. Dundee United obviously had all those absences, still managed to put in a decent display against their lot line. But I can't believe this came down to a vote that came out right before a game. I think it's absolutely nonsensical. They've been in this exact situation before, and the lack of planning and foresight is just baffling to me. How they didn't get their the heads around the table sooner than this is a joke. But we got the result we wanted in terms of the winter break coming early, which I think makes total sense. If there's any chance of having fans back at stadia rather than playing 3 or 4 fixtures in front of 500 folk in their dugs, then obviously you do that. I don't see the point of doing the opposite. So yeah, I think it was badly governed and badly handled, but we got the outcome that we probably would have wanted, especially in terms of injuries as well. So it's a bit of a boost. No real complaints apart from the obvious big complaints I've made. So how are you feeling about it?
I'm kind of at risk of making myself into some sort of doom monger here because I've been in a mood all day, and it's definitely because I'm housebound. But everyone's kind of jumping about, absolutely buzzing with this news, you know. And don't get me wrong, it was funny seeing Rangers and Rangers fans not getting their way. That was pretty humorous, but I'm not totally convinced how much is going to be different. You know, certainly for that Hibs game in mid-January, I think it's totally the right thing to postpone these games after Boxing Day and give us a chance at least. Because even if we can get 1,000 fans into Celtic Park, that's 500 more than we would have had if the game had been played, you know, before the break. So I get that point of view, but I'm just really sceptical about the prospect of having a lot of fans at Celtic Park for these games. I'd kind of hoped that these rescheduled games, the two that they're postponing, Hibs and Rangers, both at Celtic Park, that they'd squeeze them in further down the season. I'd seen like a March and an April kind of midweek free, and I just wondered if they would do that, and it would definitely get fans in. And obviously now we've got the extra complication about whether Tom Rogic and Kyogo and maybe some other Japanese players are even going to be around for the Rangers game. Again, for people who don't know, I think Japan and Australia both have matches on February the 1st. That derby is on February the 2nd. So unless they're going to do an F.A. Ambrose type swoop across the planet like he did pre-Juventus in 2013, I struggle to see Tom Rogic and Kyogo playing. Now, obviously, the caveat there is I've seen a lot of people saying that, you know, will international football even happen if the pandemic's really at its height? It makes no sense. Japan have called up a Japanese-based squad for their first friendly. Will they do the same for their qualifiers? I don't see why they would. I think they'd look to get the game postponed because it's a crucial qualifier for them. Why would they just settle and play it with Japanese-based players?
Right.
But that's all stuff that will be ironed out in the future. It's speculation at the moment. As I say, if we can get 5, 10, 15,000 Celtic fans in for the derby, then it's much better than 500. But there's a lot of people going about possibly, you know, full house at Celtic Park. I would love it if that was the case. I just, you know, if this COVID thing has taught us one thing, it's that 3 weeks doesn't mean 3 weeks, and I just think it'll go on longer than that. But once again, maybe I'm just an idiot. But I think we'll leave it there. So it's exciting times to come anyway. Definitely, mate. We can't go down that route.
No.
Boxing Day, Celtic will take on St Johnstone away from home. There will be 500 fans there. They'll all be St Johnstone fans. So we've seen our last Celtic game with, you know, full crowds, certainly until, you know, mid-January. But there will at least be 500 fans. St Johnstone fans on Sunday, you can kind of put your own joke in here about their usual home support, and we'll see how that goes. Euan, I'm going to leave it there, mate, because I feel like I'm waffling at this stage. Thanks everyone for tuning in tonight. A disappointing night for Celtic. No cause for complete panic and bedlam and, you know, irrational shouts, but I think it's okay to say that the team have disappointed us tonight. And it's a couple of drop points. We will be back tomorrow. I'm going to do a video on something. I'll find something to talk about. Until then, everyone, take